This video is dedicated to a lot of students out there because I've been getting a lot of questions, and I know that in my tutoring sessions, notes is something that I really focus on. So what is the best way to take notes? In this video, I'm going to explain to you one of the ways that you can use our homework to really develop a better skill taking notes. So here's the first thing that I want to tell you. We need to do dictation homework, and we need to maybe do some extra dictation on our own. So if you're not sure what dictation is, let me just review the idea very quickly. Dictation is where you listen to audio, you listen to a lecture or a conversation, and you type out every single word you heard. So you create your own transcript for that either conversation or lecture. So every single word, the prepositions, the adjectives, the articles, everything. That's what dictation is. Now, when you do dictation, I'm going to give you a certain technique that I think is going to be very effective in showing you how to take very strong notes. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to understand that you're going to have to listen to the audio a few times. You know, you have to listen to it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes more, depending on the student, to really get every single word that the professor or that the student said. So you want to decide for yourself what you're going to listen to. So what that means is you're either going to listen to one sentence, hit pause on the recording, and try to write down what you heard. Then repeat that sentence and do it again, you know, one chunk of information. Or you want to pause every 5 to 10 seconds, something like that. So I hope that makes sense. You're just going to pick and decide whether you're going to listen to one sentence at a time and take dictation, or whether you're going to listen to 5 to 10 seconds at a time and take dictation. You know, practice, experiment, see which one is more comfortable for you. Sometimes a sentence can be challenging because you have to identify it, but I think it's very good to build an ear for a sentence. So that's why I have it here. This is what I recommend. So you're going to listen to a sentence, pause it, and then what you're going to do is you're going to listen to it naturally. However many times you have to listen to it again to get all the words perfect. So it could take 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, however many times it takes. Now, let's assume that we take 5 times. So what are we going to do with that? Okay, so we're taking our dictation in the lecture that we're listening to. We pause the recording every sentence. We write down what we heard. We have to hear the sentence 5 times before we get that sentence full and perfect. So what you're going to do is you should have a notebook or a collection of papers where you have all your dictation. So you can compare one dictation that you did to another one that you're doing now. Because what I want you to do is I want you to write down that number. For, in our case it's 5. How many times it took us to listen to that sentence to write it down perfectly next to your dictation. So you're going to have, let's say, the big number 5. Now what you're going to do is tomorrow, the next day, when you do dictation again, whether it's for a new lecture or continuing the lecture, what you're going to do is you're not going to listen to it 5 times anymore. You're going to take it down 1. You're going to listen to it 4 times maximum. That means you might be losing information, but it's going to push you to listen more carefully. So you're going to do that 4 times. Then the next day, of course, as you already know, now you only listen to it 3 times. Now you're going to miss even more information, but you're going to be building a stronger ear, taking more focus. Now the important thing is, at the next day, you're going to do it 2 times, and then 1 time. As you're decreasing, you're going to be missing information. But the information that you want to focus on are the key words. I'm going to explain this a little later. But the key words are the things that you want to make sure to have in your paper. The key words are subjects, verbs, and objects, specifically verbs and objects. Key words that show and kind of explain what's happening. Verbs and nouns. Now, what you're going to do is eventually, as the days go by, you're going to challenge yourself, building your ear. When you get to 1, that's when something special happens, because those are the way that you take notes. Because here is when you only listen to it once and you have to write it down. So what you're going to do is when you listen to it once, you're going to take your dictation a little differently. What you're going to do is, instead of writing it out like a paragraph, like a transcript would normally be, you're going to give each sentence, or each 5 to 10 seconds, each unit of information that you heard, a bullet point. This is a bullet point right here, a little dot. And you're going to put the words that you know next to that dot. What that's going to do is it's going to help you take better notes, because you should be using bullet points in your notes. So it's going to build a habit. Then you put the next bullet point for the next piece of information. So you're going to have a big sheet with a lot of bullet points with a lot of units of information. Now, With the first, or with when you listen to it only once, there are a couple ways to do it. One way is where you pause after the sentence. That way is still focusing on building your ear, working on note-taking, but not as much. So if you feel like you don't listen to some of the points, you need more practice with that, just pause it and then write it down. As you build a better ear, you feel that you understand most of the information, then what you want to do is don't pause at all. And then this becomes just taking detailed notes. So what you do is you kind of show how dictation, you learn how it leads to notes. And you become better able to take more detailed notes. Because as you're reducing the amount of times you're listening, you're getting more comfortable and better at identifying the key words. The words that allow you to understand what the lecture or the conversation was about. I hope that's clear. So again, the dictation we use to gradually listen less often till we get to one time only. Then we use bullet points, focus on the key words, and this becomes our notes, our way that we want to consistently take notes for the listening section, for the speaking section, and for the writing section. But since you're here for the speaking, I want to focus on a very important thing. The way you take notes for question 3 and 5 are different than the way you take notes for question 4 and 6. Because in questions 3 and 5, you need all of the information from the conversation to fill up your 60 seconds. So you want to take notes in this way, very detailed, everything. Then you're going to get a very good score. For questions 4 and 6, you have to take notes differently. If you take notes the same way, you're in trouble, because you're going to have too many pieces of information here. Remember, these lectures are about 2 minutes. You only have 60 seconds to explain yourself. So you want to make sure that you don't give yourself anything difficult. I noticed that the average student takes notes normally here and has about 40 to 60 words on their notes. And the average student can explain within 60 seconds about 25 to 30 words. So students always get cut off in the middle. That's a recipe for a lower score. So if you want to get that higher score, you have to control your time. So how do we do it? We make this bigger. So what that means is that when we're taking notes on the lectures, instead of taking notes for every sentence or every piece of information we hear, we're taking notes for every 2 to 3 sentences, every big piece of information that we hear. And then next to a bullet point, we're summarizing what we heard, the important points. So naturally your brain is going to adjust. It's going to hear 3 pieces of information, but what you remember is going to be the most important. So you're going to write that down next to the bullet points. If you take notes in this way, naturally you're going to reduce the number of words that you have. And you want to reduce them down to what you can say comfortably in 60 seconds. For some students that's 25 words, for some students that's 35. So you have to experiment a little bit. But as you know, success comes from control, especially under the stressful conditions of the test. So that's what you want to do. And if you're watching this for writing question number 1, you want to take notes the same way you take notes for everything else, with extreme detail. It's only questions 4 and 6 of the speaking question that we want to modify this. Listen to 3 pieces of information at a time. So remember that. I hope that was clear. I hope you can see the value of the homework, taking notes and kind of being diligent in our way to getting down to the method of taking notes here. If it was unclear, let me know. Good luck, work hard, and I hope that helped.